Hello and welcome to Dadvice. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Today we are going to be talking about things that nobody told me before I became a dad that I wish I knew. Now, before we get into that, I did want to just say if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm adding new content all the time. You can also find me over on Instagram at Dadvice Official, so go ahead and check that out too. And lastly, if you know anybody else who is embarking on this parenthood journey, please do share the video with them too. I would really appreciate it. Hopefully they would learn something too. So thank you in advance for that. Let's get into it. So I'm going to go through three of the sort of main points that I wish that someone had talked to me about beforehand, and I might go ahead and throw in one super shocking last point that is the point that surprised me the most out of all of them. The most shocking thing, the thing that nobody said to me in all the advice, in all the books, the classes that I went to, I studied up before becoming a dad, and nobody told me this one thing. Stick around for that at the end of the video. Number one is for anyone who thinks that nappies are going to be the worst thing. They're not. Sterilizing is the worst thing. You have to sterilize everything every time you use it. That means bottles. That if the mum is expressing, she will be using equipment to do that. That all needs to be sterilized. Storage containers that you then put the milk into, that needs to be sterilized every time. If you're formula feeding, every time you do a bottle, every time you do a feed, it's got to be sterilized afterwards as well. Oh my goodness. I would change 100 nappies if it meant I never had to sterilize ever again, honestly. So that is something that shocked me, how much of a pain sterilizing stuff is. I would say that if you can get a sterilizer, it makes things 100 times easier. I would definitely recommend that. There are also machines, if you are formula feeding, that will produce like perfect temperature milk in a sterile environment. So, and they do it really, really quickly, way faster than letting a kettle boil, let the water cool down to the right temperature and mixing it then, all the while baby is screaming in the background. There are various bits of kit that you can get hold of. It's a bit more of an expensive option. It's really up to you to then make the decision. Is it worth it for the time that it's going to save you and for removing that element of stress out of it? Only you can decide. But I would say if it is an option on the table for you, definitely do some research and explore that option for sure. The second thing on my list was that doctors and midwives have opinions. So a lot of the time those opinions will be presented as fact. We found in our own experience that actually, if you ask the same question to 3, 4, 5 different doctors or midwives, you'll probably get 3, 4, 5 different answers. So what can I give you to take away from that? Well, this is actually an encouraging thing. So it really is a liberating thing when you come to that realization that really they're offering a viewpoint. Obviously, they've gone through many years in some cases of experience and of qualification in order to get to the position that they're in. Are these opinions founded in a lot of kind of medical studies and research? Yeah, probably, but it's not as much of a black and white thing as I perhaps thought before. One doctor might say is absolutely necessary, another one might deem as being the wrong thing to do or being one of several routes. My advice on that front, ask around, take different opinions. Just because one person has said it, it doesn't mean you have to go steamrolling down that route. I think we're often intimidated by doctors. They're the experts, they know what they're talking about. I don't have the first clue, particularly if you're a new parent and you haven't done this before. That doesn't mean that you just sort of blindly go along with everything. I would say ask those questions. Make sure you understand why the doctor or midwife is giving you the advice that they are, and then make your decisions based on that. The third thing that never crossed my mind and that no one ever talked to me about was baby clothes. I did know that babies need clothes. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the different types of baby clothes. So if you go into one shop and you buy something that is for 0 to 3 months, for example, and then you go to the next shop next door and buy something that's 0 to 3 months, hold them up against each other. There is every chance they will be a completely different size. So there is no uniform size guides when it comes to clothes. We ended up taking our baby home from hospital in an outfit that we had obviously taken to the hospital that we knew we could put on. We had a couple of different options. We didn't know how big our baby was going to be. It ended up being way smaller than the projections had said, and we ended up taking our baby home in a baby grow that kind of came up out here. So it's one of those things to be mindful of when you go on that kind of clothes buying spree. Don't be too kind of limited by what the labels are saying. Obviously use them as a guide. That's something that never occurred to me. And while we're on baby clothes with buttons. I don't know who came up with this. I don't know why anybody thought that this was a good idea. It is not. It is a nightmare. A lot of baby clothes have poppers, and they're super easy because you can kind of reach around, babies squirming all over the place, you're trying to change them. You can just sort of reach around the back of their neck and just kind of pop them open, and then you can whip them off over their head. When there's buttons, it is so fiddly. Babies do not sit still. They will be wriggling. If they want to be fed, they're probably going to be screaming at you as well. And you're trying to fiddle around with buttons, not cool. When you're on the hunt for baby clothes, I would strongly advise you to make sure that the majority of their wardrobe is popper based, not buttons. Buttons are not your friends when it comes to baby clothes. So you can have that tip for free, all right? Now, those are the 3 things that I wanted to get this ball rolling with. There's a ton more. Maybe I'll do another video down the track with some more for you. But there was one final one I promised you at the beginning of the video that I would put this one in. The most shocking thing. Are you ready? Sometimes babies sleep really well. I said it. There you go. I said it. Nobody told me this. I was terrified. I thought that after a couple of weeks I was back at work. I'm like, I'm going to be falling asleep at my desk. There's nowhere I can go and am I going to have to go and sit in my car and nap? I was absolutely terrified of being exhausted by being kept up by a baby all night, screaming, waking up every half hour. Now, look, I know. Some people do have that experience, and my heart goes out to them. It really, really does. We've had spells where our baby has been pretty challenging. It is draining, it's tough, and that's the sort of toughness that everybody talks about. People are so willing to pile in with stories about how difficult it is and how tired you're going to be. Listen, it can be fine. Within a few weeks, our baby was really sleeping really pretty well. Certainly sort of 4 hours at a time, wake up, have a bit of a feed, and then sleep for 4 hours again. That's very doable indeed. You can very comfortably get along in that sort of rhythm. People really beforehand really made me feel like I'm never gonna sleep properly ever again. I was really worried about how I was gonna do it. And in our case, we're very lucky. I get it. Babies are on a spectrum, and we're at the very lucky end of that spectrum for most of the time. She definitely has her moments where she swings back towards the more challenging end, but for the most part, we've been really lucky. So I'm going to do another video at some point on dealing with sort of lack of sleep or feeling drained emotionally. Yes, prepare for that kind of thing, but don't assume it's definitely going to happen. It may well be that you get a baby that likes their sleep. Of all the things that I've learned since becoming a dad, that's definitely the most surprising, is that it can be fine. I hope that gives you a little bit of encouragement if it is something that you're apprehensive about. I hope the other tips on there as well, in terms of having that confidence to kind of talk to doctors, be careful with the clothes that you're buying for your baby, and bringing your A game to the table when it comes to the sterilization process. I hope that these are sort of practical things that really help you out. As I say, there's a bunch more stuff, but if there's things that you really want to contribute to this, please add them in the comments below, because I really want to read about it. Or as I said at the beginning, get in touch with me on Instagram at Dadvice Official. We have some great conversations over there, so I'd love for you to join in with them too. I will be back with some more Dadvice very soon. Thank you so much for watching and for staying to the end. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to catching up again soon. Take it easy. Bye.